consciously. Want to have fun? Yeah, we can have fun. We can play. Perfect. Thank you. Are we ready to go? Hello to you and welcome to Visionaries. Thank you so much for joining us. Every now and then a star is born and its light shines so bright that it illuminates the path for all to find their way. Our guest today is that star, and she's lighting the way for Africa's aspiring leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Dr. Judy Dlamini. Doc, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you.
I decided not to go through your list of credentials. I think we'll be here all night if we were to do so.
I actually appreciate that. Good
But
thought.
tell me about where it all began. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Westville, in Durban, 1959. And yeah, family of 9, 6 half siblings and 2 full siblings. Yeah.
What
and
was
the last
it
one.
like? Was it busy? I mean, it sounds like it was quite a busy household.
Kind of busy for a short time though, because I was with the extended family for the first 5-6 years, and then it was just my parents and my 2 siblings and I.
Tell me a bit about your parents. What were they like?
Very loving. My mother was very strict. My dad was strict, but he just had a soft spot for all of us, actually, interestingly. One of the few parents where you're like, I think he loves me more than the rest, but you're not sure. With my mother, it was obvious because I did well at school.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was embarrassing. But with my dad, he was amazing that way. He just, he showed love in the same way for each of the 9 kids.
My goodness.
I was very shy.
And so how would you spend the days? You would go to school? Would you come home to chores?
Go to school, yes. I started school at 4, go to school, which was, yeah, because my mother didn't have someone to help. The nanny walked out on her, and she was a teacher. So she took me to school with her, to a school called Roykopis in Westville. Yeah, because back in the day, it was still not separated as yet. But I was there for only 6 months, and then they destroyed the school because it was a black school.
My goodness.
And constructed a road, and we had to move to Mazenot in Chesterville. We still lived in Westville, so we had to take a bus, but I was with my mom and my brother. So yeah, I was boring actually. You know those kids who do the right thing all the time? It's like, please.
Oh my goodness.
And my brother was so naughty. Oh.
Yeah, he made up for you.
He
said, don't worry, I'll take the naughty streak for you.
So yeah, it was that different. Yeah, but it was fun.
And you mentioned as a student that, you know, straight A's, you were one of those overachievers, even at that young age.
I did well from grade 0. We used to call it sub-A, I think.
Yeah,
yes, it was grade 1, sub-A. I did well up to matric, but then university, oh my goodness.
Tell me about university.
Oh, that was tough. That was tough. I always say Bantu education didn't prepare us for tertiary education. I failed. I failed one course, I failed another course. So it was a tough going. But you know what? It taught me to be strong. Yeah. It made me humble. Because you know when you get straight A's and or whatever it was those days, and you don't study hard, you just do your work. You don't study overboard. You actually think you are this amazing thing, and then you go to university. It's like, no, honey, there's nothing amazing about you. You work hard.
Yeah.
And I
also feel like it helps you to understand the struggles of others. You know, so when others are coming and complaining about math, and you're like, what's the problem? It's just math. Now you can relate.
Exactly. You relate that, okay. And then, but you grow as a person. It's one of the best things that happened to me, to be honest. Yeah.
Did you always know that you would go into medicine? I mean, from school?
Always.
Really?
From the age of 4.
What was it about medicine?
It was a couple of things. One of them, I actually saw a medical doctor. I think the first professional that I saw, except my mother, who was a teacher, and my sister was a professional nurse, was the doctor who came to treat my dad, his GP, Dr. Kabasha. I always tell the story. And there was something about him that just said success, owning my destiny, know what it's all about. My dad got better, so yeah. So I was like, I'm going to be this guy.
But it must have been difficult also because of the climate, you know, that the country was in at the time. We were in the grips of apartheid. You know, you're a young woman, a black woman at that. Who do you think you are?
You see, that's the thing for me. I'm always an underdog. And that makes me thrive because I'm always saying, I'm going to prove to myself that I can. So I would see black people like myself being domestic workers, being gardeners, and I would be like, no, I'm going to be that guy who's driving that car. He might be white, but I'm equal to him, you know? So I think the positive attitude, I think, you know, one of the main things I believe, having watched young people do well or not do so well, the differentiator amongst other things is the positive attitude, can-do attitude. It's difficult to beat someone who actually says, I can, I will, and I'll work hard at it, because that's what it takes.
After this break, I want you to tell us where that can-do attitude took you, because her star just kept on rising, and we'll tell you exactly what she was able to achieve in just a moment. I know one of those things is there's a book, there's also a chancellor of Wits University. There is also bring a grandma. That's also an achievement.
That's the best.
That's the best.
Now we're talking.
I can't even believe it. So you have to give me the recipe off air,
I don't think
Tell me the secret off air
I
of
think you've got it
longevity and
already.
beauty.
Thank
So
you.
all of those things coming up in just a moment. Make sure you stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. Our guest today is Dr. Judy Dlamini. Okay, I'm gonna try and count the many things that she does. Okay, so she's a medical doctor. She's also an author. She is also the Chancellor of Wits University. I know I'm forgetting something else. She's also got business interests. She's a grandma, a mom, a wife. As they would say back in the days. Let's talk a little bit about those milestones, Doc, because I think they're very important. Tell me about your first practice that you open up.
Best time of my life. It was in the township, Umlazi. I actually, from Westville, I went to Claremont. When I got married, I went to Umlazi, and I opened the practice in '87. I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter.
What?
And yeah, it was the best experience. It was just like an extended family from home to home.
Then what happened?
Then I was robbed outside my practice, and then everything changed after that. Sold the practice, sold the home, and we moved to town in terms of my practice, and we moved to La Lucia in terms of the home. And it wasn't the same. It was just not the same. Practice in town was very different to practice in the township. So it was like, okay, change position, do something else. That's why then I went into business. I studied first, and then I moved into business.
Tell me about that, because I found you always, you know, able to reinvent yourself, you know, so many times in so many ways, and you rise in everything that you do. So tell me about when you went into business.
I actually decided I only have this certificate to be a doctor, but I can have another one and be something else. So I went to business school, I did an MBA, and then after that I went into business. I think I thrive from challenges, and I think I thrive from knowing that anything is possible. And I think it's just the mindset, you know. I think it's the key to everything. Mindset, hard work. So it actually helped me. So I was looking for a job after the MBA, and it wasn't funny because I was 40 and I was put in a box of a medical doctor. And I wanted to go into investment banking because I started to do transactions, and I didn't understand much. I didn't understand finance. So I thought, you know, I've got the certificate now, the MBA, but you need the practical. You need to get to your hands, understand the deals, how to put transactions together. So I got a job at an investment bank, HSBC. I was lucky that I was introduced by a colleague of mine that I met at the business school, Patsy David. So I always say to young people, networks are very important, relationships.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, somewhere in the midst of all of this, there's love.
Yep.
I want to talk about where you meet your hubby. Was it love at first sight? And what happens thereafter?
It's interesting. It wouldn't have been love at first sight because we were at high school.
Oh, is it?
Yes, we're at high school, Marion Hill in Durban. And he had, I think, 2 girlfriends prior to me. One short one and another one. So, look, it means I was aware of him. But it was a small school. So then he took his chances with me. He happened to be the right one for me. So I always say I kissed the first frog and he turned into a prince.
Oh, I think you had something to do with him becoming a prince, if you ask me.
I actually, the mother, no, I don't want to take that credit.
Really?
No, the mother was too good. I can't take any credit away from her.
Oh, yeah. And when do you have the kids? Because you did mention the first one was when you were still having your practice, you were pregnant.
That was the second one.
That was the second one?
Yes.
Okay.
I got married in 4th year and got our son in 5th year.
Yeah, ne?
Medicine takes too long.
Yeah,
so by the time you leave, you want to have your marriage certificate, your child certificate.
As well as that PhD, all in one go.
All in one go, yeah.
I just think it's so amazing because, I mean, there you are now, fast forward at 40, reinventing yourself, going into this life. Yeah. You then also write a book. Did you always want to write a book?
Not at all.
Not at
all. No. I'll tell you what the dreams were. It was to become a medical doctor. Yeah. It was to get a PhD. It was to be financially independent. And of course, I wanted 6 kids, but my husband wouldn't have that. But it's only after I got my doctorate and looked at the stories that I actually got while I was doing the thesis, that I was so inspired by the women that I interviewed for the thesis that I said, I have to share this. And what's the best way of sharing anything? Put it in a book. So I became an author by default. But I'm starting to love it because I'm actually about to publish the second one. So yeah, it's amazing.
And you were telling me off air that it's like your children because it's 9 months, of work that you put in there.
And then you actually just watch people. And the beauty is you reach people that you'll never meet physically. And that's amazing because you always think, okay, I'm going to touch these lives, the people that I engage with. But it's so much more profound to touch lives of people that you'll never meet.
Oh my goodness.
You know?
I mean, there's a picture that we have of you and 2 young ladies there.
Oh.
And in the opening, I said, you know, your light just really illuminates the path for so many. Do you find it fulfilling to be able to inspire, especially young Black girls in this manner with the work that you do?
It's amazing. You know, it's like, it feels like this is my purpose. This is why I was put on earth. That was a book club. So last year I spent a lot of time going to book clubs where I was invited. So you'll find about 30 women and maybe 1 or 2 men. By the way, it's important for me to inspire and be a mentor to boys and girls, not just girls. Of course, there is a backlog to address when it comes to girls, but you don't want to create another one with boys. So you actually need to try and have both boys and girls to mentor.
This has been your decade, if I can even say that, or last, because your star just kept on rising and you continue to inspire. And now, I mean, we're seeing you as the Chancellor, first Black female Chancellor of Wits University. I want to know, where were you when you got that call that you were being considered? What first came to your mind? Who did you tell? Tell me all about it.
It's quite interesting because I was approached by another institution and another institution at different times, but I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't looking at doing that. But when this one came, I had been considering to lecture part-time at the business school. I was starting to write my second book. I was like, hang on, maybe instead of lecturing at a business school, this is what I can do to give back to the tertiary institutions.
I hereby install you in the honors and the dignities of Chancellorship of this university.
So I said, okay, yes. So the timing, it's always about timing, you know, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm super excited.
Yeah,
you know, you've got the rest of us in South Africa with our pom-poms out, just cheering for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for that. When we come back, I also want to find out what's next. We've already discussed the next book that's coming up, and of course, your new role. after that, I want to also find out how you let your hair down proverbially, of course. What do we do for fun? How do we relax? How do we have a good time if you're Dr. Judy? If you'd like to find out as well, stick around. See you after this. Hello again, and thank you so much for staying with us. Let's continue our conversation now with Dr. Judy Dlamini. Doc, just before the break, we were discussing your new role as Chancellor of Wits University. You know, there's a lot happening in that space, especially when it comes to, you know, decolonization of tertiary education. What are your plans? What do you hope to achieve with your tenure?
You know, the beauty with the role of a chancellor is that you're part of a team, right? You've got the vice chancellor, who actually is more like a CEO of the institution, and you assist, you help where you can, you give guidance where you can. But I think as Africans and African institutions, it's important that we own our identity. Yes, we have affiliations with the international universities that are in the first world countries, but also in the continent, because we actually want to own that Africanness and have a global excellence which is based on an African ethic. So I look forward to play a role, a meaningful role, working with the other team members. One of the things that I love is being able to reach out to students, because I've had relationships with different student chapters, like OCA, like BMF and others, and I just find that when you engage at that level, whether it's 30 of them, whether it's 100 of them, there is a lot of generational inspiration, if you like, passing of the wisdom that you actually acquire with age. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I think that's so exciting, and I know that you're quite passionate about education. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in that space.
We're doing quite a few things, and we have for many decades actually, in different forms, like supporting a school, whether it's buying computers, paying an instructor, because it's one thing to buy computers and then they get covered, they are never used. So it's important that you actually have someone who will teach the computer lessons in between. We actually support bursaries, kids, children. I always like calling people kids, and it's actually children. Supporting medical students, the training of medical students, chartered accountants, and we started with STEM now, where we involved technical, engineering, and science. So it's been an amazing journey, but one of the things that my husband and I have always had an issue with is that we always wanted to take our children to a certain school, a school that empowered them with thinking tools, a school that they could own and be happy and proud to be African, and where they don't feel like they have to assimilate to the dominant Western culture. We didn't find a school like that, so we thought we'll create one, and that is Visionaries schools. It's our second year this year. On Saturday, past Saturday, I went to a concert of the preschool performance. You sit there and you say, it makes sense. This is what we wanted, and this is what it is, and it's so fulfilling.
My goodness. I know something else that's very fulfilling for you is your role as a grandma. There's a beautiful, beautiful picture of you, your daughter, and your granddaughter. It's so powerful because there are 3 generations in that picture. I wanted to bring it up, and I want you to tell me a little bit about what was happening there.
Okay. It was the christening of my granddaughter. Makeda. That was special. For me, everything else is just, by the way, a side effect of life. The main thing is family. And we now have a second grandchild from our daughter, a boy, Mansa. He's only a month old. But it just makes, you know, when you're with them, like we're with them yesterday, my husband and I and the family, it just feels like life can stop. This is why I'm on earth, to just enjoy these moments. So my dream is to live till I see at least the first one graduate with the first degree. Poor thing, she doesn't know that I have these dreams for her. It's my dreams that I impose on her.
Oh.
But you know, we have to have high expectations of our offspring, because then they'll come close to the bar.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when you're not working and you're
Yeah.
not spending time with your daughter and grandchildren,
Yeah.
what are you doing? How do you relax?
Spend time with my husband, chill, do nothing. For me, the best thing is to do absolutely nothing. Have a book to read, maybe watch a movie, just spending time with loved ones, just chilled, reading, chatting. For me, that's the best. Yeah.
So for me, it looks like you are just, I mean, you're just perfect, and it's very easy for us to epitomize you. So just to remind us that you are human after all, you have to tell us at least one embarrassing moment. What's one of those things that you vowed, I will take this to the grave
my
and not tell
goodness,
anyone?
there are so many of them.
At least one.
You know, one is when I was in what is called Form 1. I used to be quite good in class, and the teachers would be like, Judy, you got this right. Just come in front of the class and explain. The worst panic attack you can ever think of.
Oh, no.
You know, when they say you start sweating, your hands,
palms.
and I couldn't say a word. I was in front of the class, and I wanted to cry. So there are quite a few of those. So.
Well, you've outgrown it beautifully.
Thank you.
Because you command the attention of an entire room
you.
wherever you go.
Thank
and
you.
this interview has been nothing short of that as well.
It's
Thank
been
you
amazing.
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for your
Ayanda.
time. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Oh, I'm
Sure.
so excited. And I hope that you as well has gleaned some inspiration and motivation to take you through. Thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, it's goodbye to you. God bless you.
Sanbona. Life has taught me so many things, and it's funny that ufunda kakhulu mawuhluleka rather than mawenza kahle. And my failures have taught me to be a better person. The main lesson from failure is just never give up. And I've learned that out of every negative situation, just try and make something positive out of it, because when you stay positive, nothing will beat you. Work hard, stay positive, and just never ever give up. It's not an option. Ngiyabonga.